It's a BumbleKast Mini, sponsored by Hearts 13.
So in the multiverse, there are infinite parallel realities of every conceivable universe. If that's the case, then what would the hypothetical Adventures of and SatAM versions of the Soul Dimension look and be like? What would Blaze, Marine, Robot Pirates, and Dr. Eggman Nega look like in both Adventures of and SatAM aesthetics, and behave like in the narrative history similar to Adventures of and SatAM? How would Adventures of and SatAM characters fit into the aesthetic and narrative of the Soul Empire universe? You're not allowed to use either timeline of the Soul Dimension from the Archie Sonic comics. That's cheating.
Well, Adventures of the Soul Empire would just be a region within the crazy world. It wouldn't be its own dimension. Or if it was, they would be able to access it through like some crazy portal that just happens to be open, because why not? Maybe Von Schlimmer threw a switch somewhere. I was trying to brew some coffee and oopsies, I found another dimension.
Works for me.
Blaze, I would imagine, would be fairly on brand. You know, stoic and serious and ready for a fight with crazy fire powers. Just maybe a little flanderized. I think it wouldn't be too hard to have her be the straight foil to Adventures of Sonic. That, I feel like, writes itself. And Marine is already basically an Adventures of character, so she wouldn't need much revision either. And Blaze finding the camaraderie and the ability to open up and relax so that she starts to go Looney Tunes would be the level of character assassination I don't like about Adventures of, but it would certainly work. As for Eggman Nega, he would just be Robotnik putting on a terrible disguise.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Of course I'm from a different dimension. I mean the future. A different future dimension. Stop questioning me. My mustache is gray. And Scratch and Grounder totally buy it.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
They fall for it immediately. And they're like, oh, we got a new boss now. And Coconuts are like, you guys are idiots. And the robot pirates would just be extra, very extra robot pirates. You know, yar, har, this be driving me lug nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking oil out of barrel cups. It would be absolute base level trope. Maybe they're sailing on ships that have giant wheels so they can roll over land. It's that kind of nonsense. It would be a very easy transition, to be sure.
Oh yeah.
SatAM, that one I'm not as I'm almost inclined to say it would also be just a relative nation rather than a whole dimension, because you don't have the same level of mysticism and sci-fi as Sonic would later go on. You have the Void, sure, but that parallel dimension is kind of a dreamscape. It doesn't feel like it's a whole other world. And as far as SatAM is concerned, that is what they have taught us parallel dimensions are like. So to have Blaze as we recognize her, I would see it maybe make sense as it's just a distant nation, one that has avoided Robotnik's conquest for whatever reason. Maybe the Soul Emeralds have kept it within its own fiery containment bubble. And that's why Robotnik was never able to quite make it there. And that's why we haven't seen Blaze, because she doesn't leave. And we have the robot pirates finally making a way through the barrier. Maybe they were able to steal one of the Soul Emeralds, prompting Blaze to act because she needs that emerald back to restore her shield and keep the outside world out. Gives her a very real reason to be at odds with the freedom fighters who might want that power to overthrow Robotnik and get their home back. She sympathizes, sure, but she needs it to protect her land, and her land comes first. And SatAM Sonic is not the type to sit down and talk this out. This would come down to a meeting of the minds between Sally and Blaze.
Mm-hmm.
And Marine, maybe she's the reason why the emerald got lost. She wants to explore the oceans of the world. She wants to go out there and see that big, beautiful world that's denied to them. And that very friendly robot pirate over there totally said they could give her a boat if she just gave him that shiny gem. And she didn't think anything of it because she's 6. Have a parallel with Tails. He wants to be a hero. He wants to do more, but he's kind of lagging behind. And she wants to explore, but that's kind of in direct defiance of her sovereign. So you could have some fun mileage out of that.
Yeah.
And as for Nega in that context, because I know what one of the intentions was for Robotnik and Snively, but that was never really established in the show canon. So I hesitate to trot that out. So maybe to keep it simple, he's just like either Robotnik's father or grandfather. Depends on how old you want to lean, how hard you want to lean in that gray mustache hair.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he's decided that the young whippersnapper has taken too long. You conquered the whole stinking planet, but you can't get the varmints in the forest? Yeah, just napalm it, dadgummit. That's what that AM Nega sounds like, I guess. So maybe someone who's coming to potentially usurp Robotnik and show him how it's done, which causes a nice convenient conflict to keep the antagonists distracted while the heroes get their own business in order.
Mm-hmm. All right. If Shadow's alien DNA came from Black Doom, where did Gerald Robotnik get the hedgehog DNA from to give Shadow his humanoid animal appearance from? Also, were the genes from the biolizard and or any other animal that has great longevity or regenerative properties, immortal jellyfish, tardigrade, axolotl, cockroach, spliced into Shadow's genetic code?
I mean, hedgehogs seem to be fairly common on Earth, so maybe Gerald had something on file. Maybe he just asked for a donation. Well, maybe he picked something up off the ground. I don't know. Got to be hedgehog DNA lying all over the place. As for what else is within the crazy cocktail that is Shadow, I think it's just supposed to be Black Arm's DNA. I don't think he has anything else in there, but we don't know how much he was engineered. Mm-hmm. Like, how much did Gerald look at the biologist and go, okay, that gene sequence works. If I just kind of tweak it over here in this hedgehog/alien DNA, it'd get the same effect.
Yes. And it would not be a giant space lizard, which would be an improvement.
Whoops, added too many chromosomes, turned him into a banana. Better revise.
Uh-oh. Shadow the banana. Oh, banana.
It all starts with this. A banana containing the ultimate power.
Here's a hypothetical question for an alternate universe scenario. In an alternative 2022, Deke decides to create a new animated TV series based on the Sonic Adventure games. If an SA1 and SA2 Deke animated series was made, do you think it would borrow inspiration from the adaptations from Sonic's Archie comics, or any of the previous Deke Sonic animated series? Or do you think it would go in a totally new direction? Would any of the previous characters from the previous cartoons and comics appear? Do you think they would make an entirely new cast, or would they just settle for the cast of the adventure games?
Knowing what I know, I'm inclined to think that it would be a frustratingly standalone series with just enough callbacks to the previous incarnations to make you wonder how the hell this fits in anywhere.
Oh, so like Underground.
Like, yeah, only worse.
Yeah.
Like, it would be Jaleel White in a not quite on model Sonic Adventure style Sonic,
mm-hmm.
with a lot of the same attitude and mannerisms, which doesn't fully jive with the SA1 story structure. And it would be mostly the same cast of the game, just kind of flanderized in the wrong directions, and some kind of human sidekick that would be completely unnecessary. Like a proto Chris Thorndike.
Oh, so Sonic X.
And it would follow some of the beats, just kind of get things out of order. Not quite mesh with what was in the game material to really confuse you, and then have like one offhand mention of like the princess of Mobotropolis, just to make you go, wait, so is this a continuation or not? And it wouldn't have any reference whatsoever to the Archie comic. And everyone would be going, but why? It's right there. The Archie comic continued the continuity more or less. Why not just do parallel? No, it's going to be its own adaptation. Okay, sure, why not? And then Archie would do its adaptation of that, which wouldn't sync with its own adaptation to be its own spin-off series, and everyone would be really confused.
So nothing changes, ultimately. Well, yeah. What if Big the Cat and Froggy were in Adventures of? What would his episode be like? Would they just have a small cameo, or would Big be a guest star in a plot that involved him and Froggy?
The way I would write it is have him seem like the background element, the kind of running visual gag, an inconsequential player who just happens to show up every other scene, but then be the key to the plot. Like, he just happens to be in the right place at the right time to save the day, and then just not call any attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sonic and Tails don't even like acknowledge his presence for the most part. He's just kind of, the Kilroy was here type of thing. Be the elephant in the room type of thing, just for that kind of non sequitur. What's going on? Is this an intentional joke, or is this just weird?
Why not both? I would imagine Big is like identical. Like nothing's different between him in Adventures of and other incarnations of him. He's always the same. It's always the same Big.
Yeah, it's just the art style.
Yeah,
just the art style, but the design, mannerism, everything the same. Yeah,
everything's identical, because I mean, he is our benevolent ruler. Like he is a god. He transcends time, space, and dimensions. So wherever he is Big. Like, that's just what he is. It's just
the
who
one
he is.
Constant across the multiverse.
Exactly. You don't mess with Big.
I am inevitable.
And he's always looking for Froggy. What would a crossover episode between two of the most comedic Sonic animated TV series, Adventures of and Sonic Boom, look like, and how would the characters interact with each other? And before you ask, yes, this is a multiverse scenario.
That one is a little trickier for me to wrap my head around, because the style of humor is so very different between the two.
More slapsticky for Adventures of, and
yeah, Adventures of is a little more Looney Tunes, and Boom is a little more sitcom.
Yeah,
and there's a little bit of overlap, sure, but Boom seems like more of setup and then gag, and Adventures of is just more visual slapstick, immediate punchline humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not quite sure how you would make that sync.
I think Knuckles would be into it. And Sonic would just be even more tired than usual. It's more exhausted.
I mean, maybe you would oscillate between the two, have a segment that's a little more cartoony, and then have a segment that's a little more slow paced. It would definitely be more action oriented.
Yeah. Action
with a purpose, I should say, than Adventures of. Adventures of Robotnik would totally intimidate Boom, Eggman, though. like he would take over the volcano lair within the first scene. This is my base now. You two, shaped ones, you're getting promotions. You work for me now.
Whatever you say, boss.
And then Boom, Eggman's like, please get my base back. He's scary.
I love Boom Eggman. I'm glad the main Eggman is not like him, but I do love Boom Eggman. And Scratch and Grounder and Boom. Oh boy.
Oh, they'd fit right in.
I mean, yeah, they would, but it would just be a freaking crazy.
The rest of the BumbleKast thinks Adventures of Sonic is just kind of adorable. Oh, you look good being short with a mohawk. Don't encourage the multiverser, Knuckles. Stop it. No. You need to have more catchphrases like him. Oh, yeah, I got a speed keyed. It sounds wrong when you say it.
Juice and jam? What? Boomtails is like Big Brother to Adventures of Tails. It's weird. But adorable.
The Sonics eventually find common ground over chili dogs, though.
Well, I mean, of course. As always. The most commonest of grounds. Sonic has had many animated TV series, many comic series, and 2 movies out of a trilogy. My question is, the version of Sonic from the Twitter takeovers seems to be an actor of sorts. If he is he aware of all of his different incarnations, and does he keep in contact with his former co-workers who acted alongside him in various media? What I'm asking is, does he still keep in contact with the SatAM/Archie Sonic cast?
I feel like it's... Oh, God. The door we're opening with this.
So many walls. It's like the 4th wall is broken, the 5th wall, the 6th wall. So many walls. They're all coming down again.
I would limit it to just the cast of the modern world.
Right.
Like, have your little kind of tiny offshoot that the modern cast of the modern incarnation are, actors upon a stage, and they within themselves have their interactions, but it wouldn't go beyond that, because, man, that's a can of worms.
But it would be fun, though. And I mean, come on, it's all out of canon anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if they do a Twitter takeover and Sonic's like, I wonder how Sally's doing. I haven't worked with her in a bit. Then, whatever.
Well, the fandom would have a freaking heart attack. But, I mean... But, yeah. There would be...
Didn't you have like a brother and a sister at some point? We're all actors, Eggman. That's how it works. So what exactly is the canon? That's been a great Twitter takeover. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, I think this would result in like actual physical real life war probably breaking out. If we did this, just be terrifying. Oh boy. Let's not think about that one too hard. The characters of Sonic Underground, Prince Sonic, Sonia, Manic, Queen Alina, Knuckles, Sleet Dingo, and Dr. Robotnik are sucked into an interdimensional portal and end up in the modern Sonic universe, only in the IDW comics. How do they interact with the game and IDW Sonic cast? What do Sonic, Knuckles, and Robotnik think of their modern counterparts, and how do Tangle and Whisper react to them?
I mean, Tangle's just going to say, yay, more friends.
You guys rock.
And Whisper's like,
oh no.
Liabilities.
Oh no, more friends.
And Sleet and Dingo would be a little off-put that now that they have an entire new world they have to figure out how to work and manage.
Mm-hmm.
They could barely succeed in their own world. Now they have completely different terms, different geography. What do you do? And that's when Rough and Tumble roll up and say, don't worry, we show you how it's done.
We got you, bros.
And then they become a terrible, terrible quartet until they all agree that Sleet sucks and they kick him out and it's just Dingo with Rough and Tumble.
What a dingo.
Underground's Robotnik cannot hold a candle to Eggman.
I don't think he can hold a candle to any other incarnation of Robotnik.
Really? So he might bluster a bit how, he is a world conqueror and he demands respect and he's the rightful ruler of this so-called Eggman empire, and Eggman's like, and stuffs him in a comedy confiner, and that's it. As for the triplets, Sonic's like, I have siblings in some reality. That's neat. And just kind of borrow it out and chill with them. The siblings, on the other hand, would be kind of bedazzled. Wait, your world isn't under constant dictatorship? You're relatively free and happy? That must be nice.
We're just gonna stay here.
So we can openly go on world tour and play for funsies. That's neat. I mean, maybe Queen Elena's a bit put off that she doesn't actually have a kingdom anymore. No subjects to speak of, but she got plopped down in front of her kids, and hey, the prophecy was right. They were reunited. So now she gets to tour with her kids. Happy ending for all 4 of them.
Queen Elena becomes band manager Elena.
And Knuckles teaches Underground Knuckles how to stand up for himself. For pity's sake, you're Knuckles! But you have a pet dinosaur. That's kind of neat.
That's cool. Modern Knuckles should get his own pet dinosaur. All right, next question. Razor the Shark in Adventures of. The theme is summer fun on the beach, surfing contest, and pirates? The surfing episode features both Sonic, Tails, and these post-Super Genesis Wave Archie Sonic characters. Razor, Coral, Echo, and with the antagonist Captain Shellbreaker and his Pirates of the Setting Dawn. What would their Adventures of counterparts be like, and how would this pirate/surfing episode play out with this cast? Who wins the surfing contest?
Let's see. You would have Sonic and Tails going to the beach just to hang out at the beach, because it's a simple premise and they're simple characters.
That's what they do.
But this beach is actually part of the Meropis Kingdom. It's like the actual edge of the territory that goes out of the water. That's why nobody ever visits. But, see, Coral is there for priestessly duties. Maybe she's the only one who can, maintain the shrine that's on land for some reason. And she's generally pleasant and gets along with folks. And Razor, we're going to flanderize him just a little bit, dial it up a bit so he's a little overprotective, snappy, snippy. And Adventures of Sonic is going to bait him. Pun intended.
Okay, good.
And let's see. Echo is patrolling the waters, trying to bring down Captain Shellbreaker, and because of Sonic and Razor's antics, she gets captured by the pirates, and so they have to rescue her out of obligation. Sonic and Razor were going to settle their differences with a very macho surfing contest anyway, but they somehow wrangle the crew of the Setting Dawn into this contest as well for the sake of Echo, and I guess Coral got kidnapped too, because sure, why not? Let's have all the damsels in distress. Tails gets kidnapped too, just to even things out.
Okay.
And the Shellbreaker crew is definitely all of their personalities dialed to 11. Shellbreaker himself is very much avast me mateys, yar har, and all that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Dive's desire to return to the sea kind of makes you wonder if this episode's going to get blacklisted at some point. And so on and so forth. And it's a one big chaotic surfing contest that could pass for a Mario Kart race, given all the things that are being thrown around and all the very blatant violence. And how is this wave going for so long? Don't question it. It's Adventures of. And Sonic wins because it's Adventures of. He has to win. He wins all the prizes. He rescues all the people. But earns Razor's respect, and Razor's like, all right, you're not too bad. You really got me out of that jam. We can be buddies. And Sonic's like, you're welcome, chum. And nobody questions it in the universe, but you're rolling your eyes because they did that on purpose.
And then they all laugh and the show fades to black.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. All right, and our last question from Hearts 13 as a callback to their previous mini. The Chaotix show starring Knuckles. Continuing from the what-if scenario about a Knuckles Chaotix animated series by Deke, Knuckles is obviously voiced by Brian Drummond, the voice who voiced him in Sonic Underground in our universe, but who voices the other members of the classic Chaotix? Yes, including Mighty, Heavy, and Bomb. Dr. Robotnik, Long John Baldry, Jim Cummings, Gary Chalk, or a different VA, and Metal Sonic. How many seasons do you see it going for? And if they go all the way to the end of the 90s, do you think they'll borrow storylines, characters, and locations from the Archie Knuckles comics?
Well, if we have a choice of Robotniks, I've got to go with Jim Cummings. No shade cast on any of the others, but Jim Cummings, come on!
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on the tone of this show, but...
you've got Knuckles and the Chaotix together. Adventures of was kind of the outlier of the Deke shows.
Yeah.
SatAM and Underground had darker elements. I wouldn't say Underground was as dark as SatAM, but it definitely was working with a less colorful palette.
Right.
It tried to have a narrative. It wasn't just goofy antics. So if we're following that trend, you got Knuckles and his boys doing what they do, and that's mess up that fat man's bad plans. Because they're cool. But as for voice actors, I'm bad at this, let alone actors of that era. So
Yeah.
I don't have anyone off the top of my head. It would be interesting, though, given the era, if Vector still had his Blues Brothers inspiration in terms of his characterization.
Maybe, yeah. That would be interesting.
Like Vector as a knockoff Elwood voice character. That would be weird.
Vector's on a mission from God.
And I guess Charmy would most likely still be in his original incarnation, so he would be very proper and polite and the voice of reason out of all these guys. God, that's weird to think of. To vary it up, I don't know what they would do with Mighty. Like, would they make him kind of the Sonic analog so that Knuckles had some kind of rival, someone to get a rise out of him? But the idea of Mighty being anything close to swaggering or egotistical is weird to think about.
But it was a different time, you know? Things were different back then. It's hard to say what they would go with. That is very strange to think about.
And this is my own personal bias kind of weighing in, but seeing Heavy and Bomb kind of pull a C-3PO R2-D2 bit would make enough sense to me.
I suppose, yeah.
Or maybe they both do the R2 thing, and they're both like clanking and beeping and whatever, and everyone just kind of goes, yep, you said it.
Yep.
And if we're going like old school mentality and questionable localization.
Oh, no.
What if they went like the coward route with SBO?
Oh, no.
Like he's always turning invisible to hide from fights, or something startles him and he cycles through colors for the visual gag. He's the Scooby-Doo of the CHAOTIX. Man, that hurts to say out loud.
Oh, that is so weird. I don't like it.
But it feels like it would fit at the era, doesn't it?
I know. That's the worst part.
Ew.
Gross. Do not want.
And most frustrating of all would be Metal Sonic wouldn't be Jaleel White, but it would be someone who sounds very close to him, enough to make you go, why didn't you just get Jaleel White?
He was busy.
And it would be one of those really bizarre rules for the show that they couldn't reference like Sonic. It could be Metal Sonic, but they couldn't ever make an allusion that he was associated with Sonic himself. They have to dance around it.
They had like this weird contract thing. Yeah, I could absolutely see that. That would be the silliest crap. And they would absolutely do that. Oh, yeah.
And given the history of Coconuts and Sleet and Snively, he would totally be conniving to take over from Robotnik.
Well, yeah.
You know, he's the put-upon underling who thinks he can do everything, bites off more than he can chew, gets wrecked, goes limping back to be verbally abused. And one of these days, he's got to run this show himself.
And
it would run for exactly one season.
Yes.
Most of the episodes would be one-off goofs with no real interconnectivity. And then the final episode would be where somebody who actually cares writes the plot. It becomes really engaging. You have what looks like Robotnik's demise, and then right at the end, Metal Sonic rises up in the big red Metal Sonic Kai form, promising the fight for their lives. Roll credits, and that's where it ends.
Of course. Because why would they end it properly?
And then you would have at least 2 fan continuations going in wildly different directions.
Yes. 30 years later.
I'm glad we didn't get that universe.
Well,
I don't like that at all.
On that note, we're out of here.
Yeah, that's enough. We've done enough damage. Thank you to Hearts13 for sponsoring this BumbleKast Mini. If you want one of your own, head over to patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, or become a YouTube member. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we will see you next time on the BumbleKast.
Catch you later.